Welcome to Mrs. Schaefer's studio. Today we'll be working on a paper sculpture. So of course you'll need some paper. You can use white paper or colored paper. Whatever you have around the house is great. You'll also need some scissors and glue. First I'll show you some techniques of things that you can do to your paper, and then we'll put them together to make a paper sculpture. Go grab your paper and we'll get started. So I'm going to start off with making some strips of paper. So there's two things you could do. You can cut your strips, or you can tear some strips. To tear the strips, you're going to want to tear slowly. Those are the two ways that you can make some strips. I've torn and cut lots of different strips that I'm going to use to make other pieces to go into my sculpture. Now I want to get a couple of rectangles. So I'm going to take this paper, fold it in half. You could even fold it in half again and use that fold to cut. I'm going to use these rectangles in a method called rolling. So I'm going to take this rectangle and I'm going to roll this one up on the longer line. So I'm going to need a little bit of glue on the edge. Just takes a little bit along the edge so that I can glue this roll together so it'll stay. I'm going to hold that for a couple of seconds until it sticks. That created a nice long tube. But this rectangle I'm going to roll the other way. Again, I'm going to need some glue on the edge. Just a little skinny line of glue to make it hold and stick together. Now I have a shorter, wider tube and a long and skinny tube. Now I want to make a cone. To make a cone, you're going to need something to use for a tracer, some sort of circle. So I'm going to hold my tracer tight and trace carefully around. And I'll cut out my circle. Then I'm going to need to make a slit in my circle. So I'm going to draw a line halfway through the circle. That will show me where to cut. You'll cut right there, and then you can use that to create a little cone. If you go further around like this, you can make a smaller, pointier cone. But for this you'll also need glue, just a little dot to hold your cone in place. You can use this method to make different shapes of cones. If you want a larger cone, you'll just need a larger tracer for your circle. Another fun technique is to make fringe. So I'm going to take one of my strips that I had already cut and make it a smaller strip, just a nice long skinny rectangle. And I'm going to use this to make some fringe. So I'm going to make little cuts carefully. Be very careful not to cut your fingers. And all the way down this rectangle, I'm going to make little skinny cuts. Not all the way through though. And that gives me a nice piece with these little pieces of fringe. Something else that you can do that's fun with the fringe, I'm going to take just a scrap piece of paper, I'm going to fold it. Now here's my fold line. Next to that fold line, I'm going to draw sort of a half circle or half moon shape, like this. Again, there's the fold line, and I'm going to cut right here. When I open it, I'll have a leaf or a feather shape, but I'm going to keep it closed and again make fringe cuts. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Remember, be very careful when you're making these fringe cuts. Keep the scissor tips away from your fingertips. And when I open it up, I have this nice feather shape with the fringe on the edges. Now I'm going to make some curls. I've got one of my longer strips that is torn on the edges, and I'm going to use this one to make a curl. To do that, I'm simply going to roll it up. And then you can see from the side it makes a nice curl shape. This is a shorter one. Another way that you can make a curl if you have trouble rolling it, you can take a pencil or a pen and roll the paper around the pencil or the pen and then pull out the pencil or pen. And then you've got a nice curl shape. Another technique that you might want to try is called folding. So I'm going to take this strip, and at the end I'm going to fold a small piece, and then I'm going to flip it over and fold again and flip it over, fold again. Each time I'm going to flip and fold. And when I'm done, I've created a nice zigzag line Now this one is short. See, the little peaks are pretty short. But if I want to make it a little bit taller, then I'm going to make my folds bigger. That's how big my first fold is. But it's the same technique, flip and fold. And when you're done, you have a zigzag line, but this one is taller. I've used a lot of different paper sculpture techniques so far. Here, I've used rolling to make tubes. I made this little tiny cone. These pieces have fringe on the edge. I've got some torn paper and some cut paper strips. I used folding and curls. Now it's time to put all these things together to make a sculpture. The way that you do that is completely up to you. If you have glue, you can use glue to secure your pieces together to make your sculpture. If you don't have glue, then you can just stack your objects together. That part is up to you. I'm going to start with a couple of strips, and I want to make a bridge shape like this. So the easiest way to do that, I'm going to take and fold the ends just a little bit to make tabs. Then I'm going to put just a little dot of glue on each of the tabs. Now I can use these tabs to secure these pieces to my paper on the bottom. See, I'll add a tube, and I really like the idea of putting my cone on top of this tube. My zigzag could be kind of going under the shape, and I can just leave it, or I can secure it with a little bit of glue. Here's my finished sculpture. As you can see, I added several pieces to the design. Now it's your turn. What can you create? I hope you enjoyed making a paper sculpture today. Be sure to take a picture of your design if you can and send it to me. You can post it in the comments on the Facebook Austin page or email it to me. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.